Doctor Who, The Ambassadors of Death, the third story of the third Doctor, is written by David Whittaker, Trevor Ray, Malcolm Hulke and Terence Dix, and starring John Pertwee, Caroline John, Nicholas Courtney and John Levine. So originally Patrick Troughton was going to be in this story as the second Doctor along with Fraser Hines and Wendy Padbury as Jamie and Zoe, but they left the show at the end of season 6, so the writers were finding a way to fit the story with new casts. So the title was going to be The Invaders from Mars, which later got used in Big Finish.
Now, history records the King getting soggy ankles, but not until I'd intervened. Someone had been meddling.
Who?
One TARDIS, one 24th century Palthidian flood controller, and an amoral Time Lord later, King Canute really did turn back the tide.
And Carriers, and then obviously the Ambassadors of Death. And I love how they experiment on the title sequence where they get into certain situations and we get the Vortex telling us the name of the episode. Plus, you might have noticed that I used that at the end of my Whoniverse Retrospectives because I thought it's stylish. So the filming took place Blue Circle, Cement in Kent, Marlow, Lock in Buckinghamshire, Southall Gas Works in Middlesex, and few sites in Aldershot, Hampshire. So this story begins at the Space Control with Professor Cornish communicating with a couple of astronauts in Mars Probe 7.
How do we know they're still alive?
You took off from Mars manually. They must have been alive then.
Something took off from Mars.
So throughout a couple of parts of this story, Michael Wisher played John Wakefield, a news reporter who tells us what happens in the story, which is great.
In a few minutes, we shall know the answer to the question that has been occupying the minds of everyone here at Space Control since Mars Probe 7.
While Brigadier came in and looks into the proceedings in the Space Center, the Doctor got his console out of the TARDIS and trying to work it, so him and Liz Shaw kept disappearing and reappearing. He tells her that they got sent 15 seconds into the future.
Well, we both got caught in the time warp field and were projected into the future.
Into the future?
Yes, but only about 15 seconds.
The Doctor is surprised to see Brigadier in Space Control on TV. He's still upset the fact that he blew up the whole Silurian race. As Charlie opens the airlock, he gets captured by Ambassador Race, and the noise seems to happen in the Space Control. Scary stuff. So the Doctor and Liz arrive in the Space Control. He says the sound is a message, a series of high-frequency, accelerated impulses. We also get a great gunfight scene in the warehouse. And eventually Sergeant surrenders as he hesitated to kill the Brigadier. After the Brigadier sees an explosive ticking and explodes, the Doctor and Liz arrived in the computer room and Tal Talion is holding them hostage as he closed the door. Tal Talion wanted the tape, so the Doctor gives it to him, and I thought it was pretty cool when it disappeared like that.
Since you insist.
So Brigadier came in and Tal Talion did look like he was about to take Liz hostage, but he threw her on the floor and ran off as Brigadier tried to get after him, but he lost him. So the Doctor and Brigadier question Sergeant, but he doesn't answer. So the Doctor asked him if he wanted a cup of tea, and I find it amusing when the Doctor shouted to stand up straight and call him Sir.
Had a cup of tea?
Yes, thanks.
That's good. Stand up attention when you're talking to me and call me Sir!
That's pretty amusing. But after the Doctor and Brigadier left, a mysterious soldier knocks a unit soldier out and lets Sergeant out. So we get an epic gun battle with helicopter in the street roads. The Doctor tricks two men driving the truck into magnetising their hands onto Bessie by telling him that he needed a push. So the Doctor steals the truck, and before we know it, the capsule is there, and the Brigadier was surprised to see it. So the Doctor and Brigadier tells James Quinlan everything that has happened and their theory that there is a mole. So after the Doctor and Brigadier left, it reveals that James has hidden Tal Talion in the cupboard, and because everyone's getting the same answer from Van Leyden in the radio saying nothing but we are not cleared for re-entry, the Doctor tells everyone to cut the capsule open.
All this is Recovery 7. Will you clear us for re-entry?
Van Leyden.
We're not cleared for re-entry.
Right, cut it open.
Not sure if it's a good idea, but it turns out to be empty, although it was a tape recorder, so the Doctor and Brigadier wanted an answer from James Quinlan, but he won't give any. However, he sends General Carrington in. He explains that he's the head of the newly formed Space Security Department, and that his actions were to protect the astronauts as they had been infected with contagious radiation. Meanwhile, Regan dumps a couple of corpses in the gravel quarry. While the Doctor and Liv examines the radiation, Lennox and Regan are in the underground laboratory putting an astronaut astronaut in the isolation chamber, but Regan gets attacked and Lennox tries to run for it.
It's all right. I want to help you. Can't you understand?
But Regan gets attacked and Lennox runs up the stairs and can't get out. He gets cornered, which is pretty intense, but the astronaut passed out and is back in the isolation. Because Brigadier didn't send for Liz, he needed to go after her. We get a cool car chase scene. As soon as they overtook Bessie, Liz ran in the bridge with two men chasing one of them, dangling off the bridge, and Liz was about to fall. And I was like, whoa! So the two men helped Liz up and took her to the lab to see Lennox. The doctor gets told on the phone that Liz would be killed if he doesn't stop interfering.
You have found her?
No. Someone threatening to kill her if I don't stop interfering.
So Liz tried to get out, but the doctor is locked and Lennox wouldn't go anywhere. But he gave Liz the key and she manages to escape. As the doctor confronts Titilian, he leaves. While Liz does a bit of a hitchhiking, a car pulled over and there was Titilian driving. Which I think that's the reason why hitchhiking's now illegal. So Liz gets taken to the lab. John Pertwee again is brilliant as the third doctor. Caroline John and Nicholas Courtney are great as Liz Shaw and Lethbridge Stewart. I do love John Levine as Sergeant Benton. He's canny, funny and very likeable. They should bring him back, and I like it when he's a bit naughty and Brigadier tells him off. It is pretty amusing. It's great that he appeared in Invasion and came back as the main character in John Pertwee's era and a couple of Tom Baker's stories. John Abernethy played Colonel George Carrington, who's actually a villain, who's a British military officer and the head of Space Security Service. Great performance. Michael Wisher played John Wickfield, news reporter, as I already mentioned. Splendid. Ronald Allen played Ralph Cornish, a controller of Space Control. Robert Cordron played Bruno Tartalian, who's a scientist and in charge of computers at Space Control. Caroline John's husband, Jeffrey Beavers, played Jeff Johnson, unit soldier, who detected the doctor's distress signal from Regan's hideout. He later played the Master in The Keeper of Traken. William Dysart played Regan, a criminal that was hired by General Carrington. Cyril Schaps played Viner in The Tomb of the Cybermen, played Lennox in his story, who's a poor scientist that gets treated unfairly. Cyril later played Professor Herbert Clegg in Planet of the Spiders, and Arachimandrite in The Androids of Tara. The cast did a great job. Those alien ambassadors are the peaceful radiation humanoids, like peaceful zombies, if you like. They could kill you with radiation energy from their hands, and I thought they're cool and scary. The music, again by Dudley Simpson, is fantastic. While Lennox thanked Liz for not grassing him up and controlled the astronauts, Tartalian touched the briefcase, which is a bomb. He was about to kill the doctor, but he blew himself up, and the doctor realised that Tartalian was a weak link, and that him and the doctor were to be getting rid of. The music in this scene where an astronaut went through the barrier and killed the soldier is nicely done. James wanted the doctor to see him, so he goes in the office just after James is killed, and we get an intense moment where the astronaut is moving towards the doctor. Luckily, Brigadier made it in, so that astronaut got away. Liz got Lennox to lie to the guards, so he goes to the unit and he requests Sergeant Benton to lock him up for safety and wait till Brigadier comes. The doctor gets ready for launch as he's in the spacesuit. It's pretty lethal in the fuel bay when Regan pushed a guy over the railings and fall to his death. Woof! And because the fuel is sabotaged, the Brigadier ordered the countdown to stop. But it was too late. The doctor lifted into space. He connected to another capsule as he communicates with Professor Cornish. But then there's some sort of bright light saucer coming for him. So the doctor walks into Recovery 7 and sees 3 astronauts. Van Leyden, Michaels and Leffy, who seems to enjoy themselves. The doctor tries to rescue them, but they think that they're on Earth. Must be perception filter. But actually they get mind controlled by the alien, reveals to be the ambassador. And I like the voice, I thought it's pretty cool. So the doctor decided that he came back for them. So after he landed back and decontamination room, the doctor puts his clothes back on, the gas puts him to sleep and he gets taken by Regan. Poor Lennox gets murdered by isotape. General Carrington is growing suspicious on the doctor, but Professor Cornish and Brigadier didn't believe that the doctor is a suspect. So Carrington left. As the doctor reunites with Liz in the lab, he couldn't get himself out. He's there to upgrade the device to control those astronauts. So then General Carrington came, and it was mind-blowing when we find out he was a villain and plans to kill the Doctor.
I'm sorry, Doctor. It's my moral duty.
However, Regan suggested to keep the Doctor alive to upgrade the machine to mind control, so after the Brigadier got arrested by General Carrington, he manages to get himself out of this. He gets Army to battle. They rescue the Doctor and Liz. The Doctor lets Astronaut through the gate, and eventually, as General Carrington tries to get John Wakefield to expose that astronaut in the tank, Brigadier, the Doctor and unit soldiers arrived in time to arrest General Carrington. He said to the Doctor that it was his instructions, and the Doctor said he understand. So yeah, the story has got great ideas. It does have suspense elements. What did you think of this story? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll be talking about Inferno next.